Transparency is the foundation of accountability. In this segment, you will see unfiltered and unedited reality. We are presenting raw, primary footage directly from the front lines of justice, offering you an objective window into the complexities of the law.
I already showed you my ID.
You fit the description of a shoplifter. Turn around, sir.
I paid for my groceries. You're making a mistake, officer.
I said turn around. Don't make this harder than it needs to be.
I'm a Navy SEAL. You don't want to do this.
I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. You're being detained.
15 minutes. That's how long it took for the Department of Defense to respond when Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reynolds didn't check in for a scheduled secure briefing. He was supposed to be at Naval Special Warfare Command by noon, a planning session for an operation that would remain classified for decades. Instead, he was face down on the floor of a Whole Foods in Virginia Beach, an officer's knee on his back, being detained for fitting the description of a shoplifter. The description was simple: blackmail. The groceries in his reusable bags were paid for. His receipt was in his pocket. His military ID was in his wallet. His sealed trident tattoo was visible on his forearm. None of it mattered to Officer Derek Sloan, but it mattered to the two men in suits who walked through the door 15 minutes later. DoD credentials, Pentagon authority, and the particular urgency that accompanies a missing special operator with active security clearance. The Bodycam captured Sloan's face when he realized what he had done. The investigation captured everything else. The Whole Foods on Independence Boulevard served the military families of Virginia Beach, a community built around Naval Station Norfolk and the Special Warfare Commands that operated from its facilities. Shopping carts filled with organic produce and protein moved past service members in civilian clothes, their fitness levels, and bearing the only indicators of their profession. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reynolds had 45 minutes before his briefing. Enough time to grab groceries for the week, drop them at his apartment, and make the drive to the compound. His girlfriend was flying in that evening. The refrigerator was empty. The errand was routine. 14 years Navy SEAL. 4 combat deployments. 2 to Afghanistan. 1 to Syria. 1 to a location that remained redacted in every document. Silver Star for actions during a firefight that had never appeared in any news report. 3 Bronze Stars. Navy Commendation Medal with Valor. The kind of service record that filled classified personnel files but never made headlines. Bud/S Class 287. Hell Week survivor. The trident tattoo on his right forearm, eagle, anchor, trident, pistol, marked him as one of approximately 2,500 active duty SEALs in the entire United States Navy. This morning, he wore a fitted black Under Armour shirt, khaki cargo pants, and tactical boots. Standard off-duty attire for operators who never fully shed the readiness that training had made instinctive. His reusable grocery bag sat in the cart, meal prep supplies, protein sources, the fuel that maintained the physical capability his job required. He was in the checkout line when Amanda Whitfield, a store employee restocking shelves near the front entrance, watched him approach the register. She saw a muscular black man with grocery bags. She saw someone who didn't match her expectation of the store's typical clientele. She saw something that made her uncomfortable. She found her manager. "There's a man at checkout who I think might be shoplifting. He has bags, but I didn't see him get a cart." The manager looked toward the registers. He saw Reynolds placing items on the conveyor belt, the same items visible in security footage being selected from shelves over the previous 20 minutes. He's checking out. He's paying. I just have a feeling. What feeling? I don't know. He just doesn't look right. The manager should have dismissed it. The cameras showed a customer shopping normally. The register would show a completed transaction. There was no basis for concern. Instead, he called the police non-emergency line. "We might have a shoplifter at Whole Foods on Independence. Black male, athletic build, black shirt. Can you send someone to check it out?" Officer Derek Sloan was 3 blocks away. 8 years on the Virginia Beach PD. A reputation that would become clear during the investigation that followed. He arrived at 11:38 a.m. Reynolds was walking toward the exit, receipt in hand, groceries bagged. Sloan intercepted him 10 feet from the door. "He's checking out. He's paying. I just have a feeling." "What feeling?" "I don't know. He just doesn't look right." The manager should have dismissed it. The cameras showed a customer shopping normally. The register would show a completed transaction. There was no basis for concern. Instead, he called the police non-emergency line. "We might have a shoplifter at Whole Foods on Independence. Black male, athletic build, black shirt. Can you send someone to check it out? Officer Derek Sloan was 3 blocks away. 8 years on the Virginia Beach PD. A reputation that would become clear during the investigation that followed. He arrived at 11:38 a.m. Reynolds was walking toward the exit, receipt in hand, groceries bagged. Sloan intercepted him 10 feet from the door. Chapter 2. The description. 650 words. Sir, I need you to stop. Reynolds paused. His hands remained visible, holding the reusable bags, nothing concealed. The training was automatic. 14 years of operating in environments where sudden movements invited lethal responses. Is there a problem, officer? We received a report of shoplifting. I need to see your receipt. Reynolds set the bags down slowly. He reached into his back pocket, telegraphing the movement, keeping it visible, and produced the receipt. Here, everything's accounted for. Sloan took the receipt. His eyes moved across it briefly, then back to Reynolds. I'm going to need to see some ID. For what? You have the receipt. The items match. I need to verify your identity. Reynolds reached for his wallet. Same deliberate movement. Same visibility. He produced his military ID, the card that identified him as active duty Navy, his rank, his command. Sloan examined it. His expression didn't change. This doesn't prove you paid for these groceries. The receipt proves I paid for the groceries. The ID proves who I am. What else do you need? I need you to come with me to the security office. For what purpose? To verify your story. My story is that I bought groceries. The receipt is the verification. The store cameras will show me selecting every item and paying at the register. Sloan's partner had arrived. Officer Reina Martinez, 3 years on the force. Her bodycam activated as she approached, capturing the scene from a wider angle. What's going on? Possible shoplifter. He's being uncooperative. Uncooperative. Reynolds' voice remained level, but the temperature had dropped. I've shown you my receipt. I've shown you my ID. I've explained exactly what happened. What part of that is uncooperative? Your attitude. My attitude is patient. My attitude is professional. My attitude is what keeps situations like this from escalating unnecessarily. Sloan stepped closer. His hand moved to rest on his holster, not drawing, but present. You fit the description of a shoplifter. What description? Black male. Athletic build. This location. Reynolds looked at Sloan. At Martinez. At the customers who had stopped to watch near the entrance. That's not a description. That's a demographic. Half the men at Naval Station Norfolk match that description. I don't make the rules. Actually, you do. You decide what constitutes reasonable suspicion. You decide whether to stop someone. You decide whether a receipt and a military ID are sufficient verification. And I've decided they're not. Then we have a problem. Because I have a briefing at noon that I cannot miss. Classified. Time sensitive. And you're detaining me for buying groceries. I don't care about your briefing. You should. The people waiting for me at that briefing care about national security. They care about operations that keep this country safe. And right now, you're preventing me from attending because I fit the description of being black in a grocery store. Sloan's face reddened. Martinez's bodycam captured it. The flush of someone whose authority was being challenged by facts. I already showed you my ID. What exactly is the problem here? The problem is you fit the description of a shoplifter. Turn around. I paid for my groceries. You're making a mistake, officer. I said turn around. Now, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Reynolds looked directly into Sloan's bodycam. I'm a Navy SEAL. You don't want to do this. Sloan's hand closed around his arm. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. You're being detained. Reynolds didn't resist the grip. 14 years of training had taught him when to fight and when to wait. This wasn't a firefight. This was a grocery store with multiple cameras, 2 body cams, and witnesses throughout the checkout area. Composure was the weapon here. Documentation was the ammunition. For the record, I am Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reynolds, United States Navy. I am assigned to Naval Special Warfare Command. I have shown my military identification and my purchase receipt. I am being detained without probable cause. Shut up. I will not shut up. I'm documenting this encounter for the recording devices present. He raised his right arm slightly, not to strike, but to display. The sealed trident tattoo was clearly visible on his forearm. Eagle, anchor, trident, pistol. The emblem that fewer than 1% of those who attempt BUD/S training ever earn. You see this tattoo? This is a Navy SEAL trident. It's not something you can buy. It's not something you can fake. It represents the most demanding military training in the world. I've earned this through 14 years of service. Sloan glanced at the tattoo. His expression didn't change. Anyone can get a tattoo. Check my ID again. Naval Special Warfare Command. That's not a tattoo. That's official military documentation. I've seen fake military IDs before. You're looking at a real one. That's what everyone says. Martinez had positioned herself to the side, her body cam capturing both men in frame. Her expression carried something Sloan's didn't, uncertainty. The recognition that something was wrong with this encounter. Derek, maybe we should call the store manager. Verify with the cameras. I don't need cameras. I have a description and a suspect. The description was black male. That's not a description. That's... Stay out of this, Martinez. Reynolds looked at her body cam, at the doubt visible in her posture. Officer Martinez, for the record, your partner is detaining me based solely on my race. The description he cited contains no identifying information beyond skin color. I have provided documentation of my identity and my purchase. I am requesting that you contact my commanding officer at Naval Special Warfare Command to verify my status. Don't talk to her, Sloan interrupted. You talk to me. I'll talk to whoever is willing to listen to facts. You've demonstrated that's not you. Sloan's grip tightened on Reynolds' arm. You think you're smart? You think that military ID makes you special? I think that military ID represents 14 years of service to this country. I think it should warrant basic professional verification before you escalate a grocery store encounter into a federal incident. Federal incident? I'm active duty military with security clearance. Detaining me without cause creates jurisdictional complications you haven't considered. The only complication here is your mouth. My mouth is documenting your violations for the cameras that are going to be subpoenaed when this becomes a civil rights case. The customers near the entrance had multiplied. Phones were appearing. The particular tension of public confrontation drawing attention from every angle. Last chance, Sloan said. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. On what charge? Resisting. I haven't resisted anything. I'm standing still while you grip my arm. You're refusing to comply. I'm refusing to be handcuffed without legal cause. That's my constitutional right. Turn around. Reynolds looked at the cameras. At Martinez. At the crowd with their phones. I want it on record that I am not resisting. I am complying under duress with what I believe to be an unlawful detention. He turned slowly. Sloan grabbed his wrists and pushed. The takedown was aggressive and unnecessary. Reynolds had turned voluntarily. His hands were moving toward his back without resistance. Every camera in the store, body cams, security cameras, phones, captured a man complying with instructions. Sloan drove him forward anyway. Reynolds hit the floor face first. The impact was controlled. He turned his head at the last moment, absorbed the fall with his shoulder, protected his skull the way combatives' training had made instinctive. He had been thrown by men trying to kill him. This was violent, but survivable. His groceries scattered. The reusable bags split open. Protein bars and vegetables rolling across the polished floor of a Whole Foods entrance. Stay down. I am down. Sloan's knee pressed into his back, between the shoulder blades, pinning him to the tile. The position was uncomfortable, but not injurious. Reynolds had endured worse in training evolutions designed to simulate capture. Hands behind your back. They're behind my back. The handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Cold metal. The same sensation he had felt in SEER school, learning to resist interrogation, learning that captivity was survivable if you maintained composure. Composure. That was the weapon. The body cams were recording. The store cameras were recording. The phones held by witnesses were recording. Every second of this encounter was being documented from multiple angles. He would not give Sloan the reaction he was looking for. You have the right to remain silent. I'm not being charged with a crime. You have no probable cause. I have a report of shoplifting. You have a report of a black man in a grocery store. That's not shoplifting. That's shopping. Anything you say can and will. I invoke my right to remain silent except to document this encounter. I am Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reynolds. I am being detained without probable cause after providing proof of purchase and military identification. A crowd had formed. 20 people. 30. The particular horror of watching someone being arrested in a public space, the uncertainty about whether to intervene, the phones recording from every angle. An older white man in a Naval Academy sweatshirt pushed forward. What the hell is going on here? That man showed you his ID. Sir, step back. I saw the whole thing. He paid for those groceries. He showed you the receipt. I won't tell you again. He's got a trident tattoo, for God's sake. You're arresting a Navy SEAL. Martinez stepped between the man and her partner. Sir, please, let us handle this. Handle what? A wrongful arrest? This is going to be on every news channel by tonight. Reynolds lay on the floor, cheek against cold tile, watching the scene from ground level. The witnesses, the phones, the man in the Navy sweatshirt who had recognized what Sloan refused to see. Officer Martinez. His voice was calm, measured. I have a classified briefing at Naval Special Warfare Command at noon. I was expected to check in 15 minutes ago. By now, my absence has been flagged. People will be looking for me. Martinez looked at her watch. At Reynolds. At her partner. Derek, maybe we should. We're not doing anything until he's processed. Processed for what? Shoplifting. He has a receipt. Receipts can be faked. The automatic doors opened. The Virginia Beach morning light spilled across the entrance. Two men walked through. They wore suits. Dark. Expensive. The particular cut that indicated government service at a level above local law enforcement. Their badges were already in their hands. Credentials that made Martinez take a step backward and Sloan's knee lift slightly from Reynolds' back. Department of Defense. Officer, step away from that man. Sloan looked up. At the credentials. At the faces of men who had driven very fast to reach this location. Who the hell are you? We're the people who are going to explain to you exactly who you just put on the ground. The two men approached with the deliberate calm of professionals who had handled situations far more volatile than a grocery store confrontation. Their credentials remained visible. Department of Defense, Office of the Inspector General. I'm Agent Harrison. This is Agent Delgado. We're here for Chief Petty Officer Reynolds. Sloan remained crouched over Reynolds, though his knee had lifted from the operator's back. His face carried the confusion of someone whose certainty was encountering information it couldn't process. How do you know his name? Because we've been tracking his location for the past 20 minutes. He missed a scheduled check-in. When operators with his clearance level go dark, we investigate. Harrison looked down at Reynolds, still handcuffed, still on the floor, surrounded by scattered groceries. Chief, are you injured? Negative. Just detained. On what charge? Shoplifting. Allegedly. Harrison turned to Sloan. His expression carried nothing that could be called friendly. Shoplifting. You're detaining a Navy SEAL for shoplifting. We received a report. Did you verify the report? I was in the process. Did you check whether he paid for his groceries? Silence. Did you look at his receipt? He showed me a receipt, but did you verify his military ID? Anyone can get. Did you contact Naval Special Warfare Command to confirm his identity? Sloan had no answer. Delgado had already moved to Reynolds' side. He knelt, examined the handcuffs, then looked at Martinez. Officer keys. Ah, yes. Here. She handed them over. Delgado unlocked the cuffs with practiced efficiency. Chief, can you stand? Reynolds rose slowly. He rolled his shoulders, the controlled movement of someone assessing physical status. No injury. No damage beyond the indignity. I'm operational. Your briefing has been postponed. Commander Reyes sends his regards and wants you to know the situation is being handled. Handled how? Jurisdictionally. Harrison turned back to Sloan. Officer, this man is active duty military assigned to a special warfare command. His security clearance is above anything you've ever encountered. When he goes missing, people at the Pentagon notice. When he goes missing in a grocery store parking lot, those people ask questions. I didn't know. You didn't ask. He offered identification. You refused to verify. He offered his receipt. You dismissed it. He identified himself as a Navy SEAL. You said, Harrison paused, consulting a phone that had clearly been receiving updates. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. The Bodycam footage had already been flagged. Someone at DoD was monitoring in real time. This is now a federal matter. Your Bodycam footage is being preserved. The store's security footage is being subpoenaed. Every phone recording in this crowd is potential evidence. Sloan's face had gone pale. The color change was visible on Martinez's Bodycam. Still recording, still capturing every moment of the encounter's reversal. I was just responding to a call. You were responding to a description that consisted of blackmail. That's not a description. That's racial profiling. And you applied it to one of the most decorated special operators on the East Coast. Reynolds had gathered his scattered groceries. The protein bars, the vegetables, the mundane supplies that had somehow become evidence in a federal civil rights investigation. Agent Harrison, I need to make a phone call. To Commander Reyes? To my attorney. Harrison nodded. Understood. We'll secure the scene. He turned to Sloan one final time. Officer, you're going to want to contact your union representative and your department's legal counsel, and possibly a very good defense attorney. For what? For what comes next? The Virginia Beach Police Department received notification within the hour. Not from the officers on scene, from the Pentagon. Captain William Forsyth was in his office when the call came through. The caller identified himself as representing the Department of Defense Office of Inspector General. The subject was an incident at Whole Foods involving one of their officers and an active-duty special warfare operator. What kind of incident? The kind that generates federal civil rights investigations. Forsyth pulled up the CAD system. Call for service. Possible shoplifter. Officers dispatched. No arrest logged. No transport. Just a status change. Cleared by DOD. Cleared by DOD? Chief Petty Officer Reynolds is assigned to Naval Special Warfare Command. He has security clearance at a level I can't discuss on this line. When he missed a scheduled briefing, his location was flagged. We dispatched agents. They found him face down on a grocery store floor in handcuffs. For shoplifting? For being black in a Whole Foods. The receipt was in his pocket. His military ID was in his wallet. Your officer dismissed both and proceeded to detain him. Forsyth closed his eyes. 8 years of building community relations. Implicit bias training. De-escalation protocols. All of it undone by one officer's assumptions. I need to see the Bodycam footage. You'll have it within the hour. So will the FBI. So will the U.S. Attorney's Office. FBI. Federal civil rights violations. Assault on military personnel. When you detain a special operator without cause and put him on the ground, you've created federal jurisdiction. Forsyth had already pulled Sloan's personnel file on his second monitor. The complaint's visible. The pattern emerging. I'll handle it internally. You'll handle it however the federal investigation allows. Officer Sloan is to be relieved of duty pending the outcome. His badge and weapon collected. He is not to discuss this incident with anyone except legal counsel. Understood. Captain, I want to be clear about something. Chief Petty Officer Reynolds has spent 14 years conducting operations that protect this country. He has a Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars, and a security clearance that puts him in rooms with people whose names you'll never know. Your officer put him face down on a floor because someone called in blackmail as a description. I understand the severity. I don't think you do. Not yet. But you will. The call ended. Forsyth stared at his screen. At Sloan's file. At the 8 prior complaints that had been dismissed, minimized, explained away. This one wouldn't be explained away. The Bodycam footage arrived 47 minutes later. Forsyth watched it twice. The first time with growing disbelief. The second time with the cold assessment of someone calculating liability. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. That line would end Sloan's career. That line would end up in federal court filings. That line would become the defining quote of a trial that would draw national attention. He picked up his phone. This is Captain Forsyth. I need to speak with Chief Patterson immediately. He's in a meeting. Get him out of it. We have a situation. 30 minutes later, Officer Derek Sloan was relieved of duty. His badge surrendered. His weapon collected. His patrol car keys returned to the motor pool. He was escorted from the building by internal affairs officers who had already received the federal preservation order for all electronic communications, personnel records, and body-worn camera footage related to his employment. This is ridiculous, Sloan said as he walked to his personal vehicle. It was a shoplifting call. It was a Navy SEAL, the IA investigator responded. And the Pentagon wants to know why he was on your floor. Sloan had no answer. He wouldn't find one. The investigation expanded within days. FBI Civil Rights Division. DOD Inspector General. Virginia Beach Internal Affairs. 3 parallel inquiries examining the same incident from different angles. The Bodycam footage was the foundation, but the investigation would reveal the architecture beneath it. Officer Derek Sloan had accumulated 19 complaints in 8 years. Excessive force. Discriminatory conduct. Failure to follow procedure. 14 had been dismissed. 5 had resulted in written reprimands, paper that went into his file and changed nothing about his behavior. The pattern was visible in the data. His stop records showed consistent targeting of black individuals in retail environments. Shopping centers, grocery stores, electronics retailers. Anywhere that a black person with nice things might attract the kind of attention that Sloan was happy to provide. 12 prior shoplifting detentions. 0 convictions. 0 charges filed. 12 black men and women stopped, questioned, sometimes detained. All released when verification proved what they had told him from the start. His social media accounts filled in the picture. Posts shared without comment from accounts that trafficked in racial grievance. Comments on news articles celebrating aggressive policing. Membership in online groups where officers discussed which stores had the best calls, meaning locations where certain demographics could be stopped with minimal questions. Text messages to fellow officers revealed more. Jokes about retail reconnaissance. Comments about keeping the nice stores safe. A message sent 2 days before the Reynolds incident. Got another one at Target yesterday. These people think they can shop anywhere now. The store employee who had made the initial report was interviewed separately. Amanda Whitfield, 23, restocking shelves near the entrance. Why did you report Mr. Reynolds? He had bags. I didn't see him get a cart. Did you see him take anything without paying? No. Did you see any suspicious behavior? No. What made you think he was shoplifting? Silence. Ms. Whitfield, I just had a feeling. A feeling about what? He didn't look like our typical customer. What does your typical customer look like? She had no answer that wouldn't confirm what the investigation already knew. The store manager who had called police was terminated by Whole Foods corporate within the week. His decision to contact law enforcement, based on an employee's feeling with no supporting evidence, violated company policy and had exposed the chain to civil liability. The federal grand jury convened 6 weeks after the incident. The charges presented: deprivation of rights under color of law, assault, false imprisonment, civil rights violations. The evidence was comprehensive. The bodycam footage, the store security cameras, the phone recordings from witnesses, the DOD tracking records proving Reynolds' location and the timeline of federal response. Reynolds provided testimony over 2 days. He described the stop, the dismissal of his credentials, the astronaut comment, the takedown, the minutes on the floor while an officer's knee pressed into his back. I've operated in hostile territory for 14 years. I've been in firefights, ambushes, situations where the enemy was trying to kill me. I've never felt as disrespected as I did on that grocery store floor. The grand jury returned indictments within hours. The trial was scheduled for federal court. The federal courtroom in Norfolk drew national attention. The case had become a symbol, a Navy SEAL with a silver star, detained and thrown to the ground for buying groceries because he fit the description of being black. Reynolds testified in his dress, white uniform. 14 years of service displayed across his chest, silver star, bronze stars with valor, Navy Commendation Medal, combat deployment ribbons. The trident pin above them all. On December 3rd, I stopped at Whole Foods to buy groceries before a briefing at Naval Special Warfare Command. The briefing was classified. The timeline was important. I had 45 minutes. He described the stop, the demand for ID, the dismissal of his receipt, the moment Sloan called his credentials into question. I showed him my military ID. He said anyone could get a fake one. I showed him my receipt. He said receipts could be forged. I showed him my trident tattoo. He said anyone could get a tattoo. The bodycam footage was played for the jury. They watched Sloan approach. They watched him dismiss every piece of evidence Reynolds offered. They watched the astronaut comment. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. You're being detained. They watched the takedown. A compliant man driven to the floor. A trained operator who didn't resist because he knew the cameras were his allies. Chief Reynolds, how did it feel to be on that floor? I've been on floors before. I've been captured in training exercises. I've been in situations where enemy combatants had the advantage. This was different. Different how? Because this was my country. This was my grocery store. This was an American police officer treating me like an enemy combatant because of my skin color. The DOD agents testified about the tracking system, the missed briefing, the response timeline. 15 minutes from flagged absence to on-scene arrival. When operators with Chief Reynolds' clearance go dark, we investigate immediately. The work he does, The work I can't discuss in this courtroom is too important to risk. Sloane's attorney attempted the standard defense. Good faith response to a legitimate call. No way to know. Following procedure. The prosecutor's rebuttal was surgical. Following procedure? The procedure for a shoplifting report is to verify the complaint. Officer Sloane never spoke to store management, never reviewed security footage, never checked whether Mr. Reynolds had paid. He saw a black man and decided that was enough. She turned to the jury. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. That's what Officer Sloane said to a Silver Star recipient, a man who has spent 14 years protecting this country in ways we can't discuss. That's not procedure. That's prejudice. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sloane stood motionless as the verdicts were read. His attorney placed a hand on his shoulder. His family in the gallery wept. The judge scheduled sentencing for 6 weeks later. The defendant has demonstrated a pattern of conduct that betrays every principle of law enforcement. He used his badge to target citizens based on race. He did so to a decorated military hero in a grocery store over bags of groceries that were paid for. The consequences will reflect the severity of his choices. The courtroom was silent as the judge reviewed the pre-sentencing materials. 8 years of complaints. 19 documented incidents. A pattern visible to anyone who looked. Officer Sloane, you were entrusted with a badge to protect all citizens equally. Instead, you used that badge to harass, demean, and assault a man who has given 14 years of his life to protecting this nation. She paused. When Chief Reynolds showed you his military identification, you dismissed it. When he showed you his receipt, you ignored it. When he identified himself as a Navy SEAL, you said you didn't care if he was an astronaut. That contempt for his service, for his dignity, for the evidence directly in front of you, represents everything that is wrong with policing in America. The sentence, 18 years federal prison. Enhanced for targeting a military service member. Enhanced for the documented pattern of civil rights violations. Enhanced for the assault that occurred after Reynolds had clearly complied with instructions. Sloane was led from the courtroom in handcuffs, the same restraints he had applied to Reynolds in a grocery store 4 months earlier. The civil settlement followed within 3 months. Virginia Beach agreed to pay $12.8 million rather than face a trial the city knew it would lose. Reynolds distributed the money with purpose. $4 million to the Naval Special Warfare Foundation, supporting the families of SEALs killed or wounded in service. $3 million to establish scholarships for minority students pursuing military careers, ensuring that the next generation of operators wouldn't face the assumptions he had faced. $2 million to civil rights organizations focused on police accountability, funding the systemic change that individual cases couldn't achieve. The remaining funds secured his family's future, his parents' retirement, his siblings' children's education, the stability that service should have always guaranteed. The Virginia Beach Police Department entered a DOJ consent decree. 5 years of federal oversight. Mandatory implicit bias training. Reformed complaint review processes. The systems that had allowed 19 complaints to go unaddressed would finally be dismantled. Chief Patterson resigned before he could be forced out. 3 supervisors who had dismissed prior complaints were demoted. Officer Martinez, who had questioned her partner, who had shown doubt, who had ultimately handed over the handcuff keys, was promoted to lead the department's new community relations unit. She had done what Sloane refused to do. She had listened. The store manager who had called police was never rehired in retail management. Amanda Whitfield, the employee whose feeling had started it all, left the workforce entirely. The attention too intense, the accountability too unfamiliar. Reynolds returned to duty 3 weeks after the incident. The classified briefing he had missed was rescheduled. The operation it supported was executed successfully. The details remained redacted. He was promoted to Senior Chief Petty Officer 6 months later. He continues to serve at Naval Special Warfare Command. His work remains classified. His service continues. He still shops at the Whole Foods on Independence Boulevard. Same store. Same checkout lines. Same groceries. The manager who called police is gone. The employee who reported him is gone. The officer who detained him is serving 18 years in federal prison. The cameras remain. The body cams. The security footage. The phones that appear whenever something seems wrong. Reynolds knows they're there. He counted on them that morning. Knew that composure was the weapon, That documentation was the ammunition, that the system would work if he gave it evidence it couldn't ignore. He was right. 18 years. $12.8 million. One grocery store receipt that proved what should never have been questioned. Some descriptions fit perfectly. Derek Sloan fit the description of an officer who saw race before evidence, assumption before fact, prejudice before duty. That description will follow him for the rest of his life. The trident on Reynolds' forearm will last just as long. Only one of them earned what they carry.
Is there a problem, officer?
You need to stand up out of that chair. Now.
Stand up? Sir, is this a joke? I'm paralyzed.
Yeah, I've heard that before. People fake disabilities all the time.
But I'm not faking it.
You're getting out of this chair one way or another. Don't make it harder.
The 911 call lasted 43 seconds. A woman's voice. Certain. Offended. There's a man pretending to be disabled in the Kroger parking lot. He probably stole that wheelchair. He's using a fake handicap placard. The dispatcher asked for clarification. What made her think he was faking? I just know, Karen Whitmore said. People like him do this all the time. People like him. Sergeant First Class Michael Travers. 18 years Army. 5 combat deployments. Purple Heart. Bronze Star with Valor. Paralyzed from the waist down after an IED explosion in Helmand Province. An explosion he survived because he threw his body over a younger soldier and absorbed the blast himself. Officer Tyler Hendricks responded to that call. He demanded Travers stand up. When Travers explained he couldn't, hadn't walked in 5 years, spine severed, legs atrophied, Hendricks grabbed him by the arm and pulled him from his wheelchair onto the parking lot asphalt. 43 seconds of suspicion, 20 years federal prison, and a caller who learned that people like him sometimes carry medals for the sacrifices she couldn't imagine. The Kroger on Preston Road served the suburban sprawl of Plano, Texas. Families loading minivans, retirees comparing produce, the ordinary commerce of a Saturday afternoon. Michael Travers had been shopping here for 3 years, ever since he and Janelle bought the wheelchair-accessible home 4 miles away. The motorized chair navigated the aisles with practiced efficiency. 14 months at Walter Reed had taught him how to adapt, how to reach high shelves with the grabber tool, how to balance grocery bags on the back of the chair, how to ignore the stares from people who couldn't reconcile a 42-year-old man with legs that didn't work. Sergeant First Class, retired. 18 years U.S. Army. 75th Ranger Regiment. 3 deployments to Afghanistan, 2 to Iraq. The kind of service record that filled a shadow box on his living room wall. The IED had detonated on a dirt road outside Marja in 2019. Travers had seen the pressure plate a fraction of a second before Specialist Rodriguez stepped toward it. He had thrown himself backward, shielding the younger soldier with his body. The blast killed Specialist Chun and Private Williams instantly. It severed Travers' spine at T10. Rodriguez walked away without a scratch. Purple Heart. Bronze Star with Valor. Silver Star nomination pending. 14 months at Walter Reed learning to live in a chair. Medically retired with full honors in 2021. Now he volunteered at the VA, helping newly paralyzed veterans adjust. Spoke at high schools and corporate events about resilience. Raised his daughter and son with Janelle, the physical therapist who had helped him learn to transfer from bed to chair and had married him 6 months after his discharge. This Saturday, he had dropped Maya at soccer practice, sent Janelle and Marcus to a birthday party, and headed to Kroger for the weekly run. Bread, milk, the snacks his kids demanded, the vegetables Janelle insisted on. He was loading bags onto his chair near the accessible van when Karen Whitmore watched from her Lexus 3 spaces away. She saw a black man in a wheelchair. She saw a handicap placard. She saw something that offended her sense of who belonged in spaces she considered hers. She dialed 911. There's a man pretending to be disabled in the Kroger parking lot. Officer Tyler Hendricks was dispatched at 2:21 p.m. 6 years on the Plano PD, 14 prior complaints in his personnel file. A pattern that would emerge later, but was already visible to anyone who looked. He arrived at 2:23 p.m. His partner, Officer Reina Mendez, followed in a separate vehicle. Her Bodycam activated as she stepped out. Axon Body 2. Timestamp 14 hours 23 minutes and 41 seconds. Travers was securing the last grocery bag when he noticed the officers approaching. 2 uniforms. One walking with purpose. One hanging back. Is there a problem, officer? Hendricks stopped 3 feet from the wheelchair. His posture was aggressive, weight forward, hand resting on his belt. Mendez's body cam captured him from behind, framing Travers in the center of the shot. You need to stand up out of that chair. Now. Travers looked up. His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. Stand up? Sir, is this a joke? I'm paralyzed. Yeah, I've heard that before. People fake disabilities all the time. The words landed in the afternoon air. Mendez's body cam recorded them clearly. So did Hendricks' own camera, though from a different angle. I'm not faking anything. I'm a disabled veteran. I was paralyzed by an IED in Afghanistan in 2019. Sure you were. Travers gestured to his legs, visible beneath the black joggers, atrophied from 5 years without use. The muscle wasting was obvious to anyone who looked. The unnatural stillness. The way they sat in the chair without the micro-adjustments that working legs constantly make. Look at my legs. They haven't moved in 5 years. My spine was severed at T10. I spent 14 months at Walter Reed. Walter Reed. Hendricks' tone carried skepticism the body cam captured clearly. Anyone can say that. I have documentation. My VA disability card is in my wallet. My military ID. I don't need to see your paperwork. Then what do you need? I need you to get out of that chair and prove you can't walk. Travers' jaw tightened. Mendez's camera caught the micro-expression, the moment disbelief gave way to something harder. Officer, I cannot get out of this chair and walk. That's what paralysis means. My legs don't work. They will never work again. That's what everyone says until they get caught. Caught doing what? Shopping at Kroger? Faking a disability? Using a stolen wheelchair? Fraudulent handicap placard? None of those things are happening. This is my wheelchair, provided by the Wounded Warrior Project after my injury. That placard was issued by the state of Texas DMV. I have the paperwork in my van. Hendricks stepped closer. His hand moved from his belt to the armrest of Travers' wheelchair. You're getting out of this chair one way or another. Don't make it harder. For the record, Travers' voice carried the calm of someone who had faced situations far more dangerous than this. I am a paralyzed veteran. I am unable to stand or walk. Any attempt to remove me from this wheelchair will cause injury. I am documenting this statement for any recording devices present. He looked directly at Mendez's body cam, then at the Kroger security camera mounted on a light pole 20 feet away, then at a woman with a phone raised near the store entrance. There are at least 3 cameras recording this encounter. I've identified myself as disabled. I've offered documentation. You have no legal basis to physically remove me from a medical device. I have a 911 call saying you're faking. A 911 call isn't proof. My legs are proof. My medical records are proof. My service history is proof. Mendez spoke for the first time, quietly, directed at her partner. Tyler, maybe we should just check his documents. Hendricks didn't turn around. I've been doing this for 6 years. I know a faker when I see one. He grabbed the armrest of the wheelchair. Last chance. Get up, or I'm pulling you out. Travers reached slowly toward his chest. The purple heart pin was visible on his hoodie, the distinctive purple ribbon, the gold heart with Washington's profile. This pin was presented to me at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center by a 2-star general. It represents a wound received in combat that resulted in my permanent disability. Hendricks glanced at it. His expression didn't change. Anyone can buy those online. I've seen the scam. People get sympathy and free parking. This isn't a scam. This is my life. Then prove it. I'm trying to prove it. You won't let me. Travers reached into the pocket on the side of his wheelchair, slowly, keeping his movements visible for the cameras. I'm reaching for my wallet. Inside is my VA disability card, my military ID, and my Texas driver's license showing this address. He produced the wallet. He opened it. 3 cards visible in plastic sleeves. VA disability card. 100% service-connected disability. Paralysis, lower extremities. He held it up. Hendricks barely looked. Military ID. Michael A. Travers. Sergeant First Class. Retired. Another card. Another dismissal. Driver's license. This address is 4 miles from here. I've lived here for 3 years. The staff inside that Kroger know me. The pharmacist fills my prescriptions. The manager helped me reach a top shelf last month. Anyone can have fake IDs. These aren't fake. They're issued by the federal government and the state of Texas. I've seen better fakes. Mendez had moved to a position where her body cam captured both men. Travers in his wheelchair, documentation in hand, and Hendricks standing over him with his hand still on the armrest. Tyler. Her voice was quiet but urgent. His legs aren't moving. Look at them. They haven't shifted once since we got here. That's called acting. That's not how paralysis works. You can't fake muscle atrophy. Stay out of this, Mendez. She stepped back. Her body cam kept recording. Travers looked at Hendricks with an expression that had faced Taliban fighters and IED craters, and the news that 2 of his brothers hadn't survived the blast. Officer, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to hear it. On March 14, 2019, an improvised explosive device detonated beneath my squad in Helmand province. I saw the pressure plate before one of my soldiers stepped on it. I threw myself between him and the blast. The explosion killed Specialist David Chun and Private First Class Marcus Williams. It severed my spinal cord. I will never walk again. He held up the Purple Heart pin. This represents that moment. This represents their sacrifice. This represents everything I lost so that a 20-year-old soldier named Rodriguez could go home to his family. He set the pin on his lap. If you think I would fake this, fake the injury that killed my friends and ended my career, then you don't understand anything about service, or sacrifice, or what it means to wear a uniform. Hendricks' hand tightened on the armrest. I've heard enough. He grabbed Travers' arm with his other hand. You're coming out of that chair. I'm warning you. And I'm done listening. He yanked. Travers' body came out of the wheelchair sideways. His arm, gripped by Hendricks, pulled his torso forward while his legs, dead weight, unresponsive, failed to follow in any coordinated way. He hit the asphalt. Mendez's body cam captured the fall, the sound of impact, the way his legs crumpled beneath him at angles that working limbs would never allow. The Purple Heart pin bouncing across the pavement, coming to rest 5 feet away. His grocery bag scattered. Bread, milk, the snacks his kids had requested. All of it spreading across the handicapped parking space. Now stand up. Hendricks stood over him. The body cam captured his posture. Aggressive, certain, still refusing to see what was directly in front of him. Quit playing. Get up. Travers lay face down on the hot asphalt. His arms pushed against the ground, the only part of his body that still responded to his commands. His legs remained exactly where they had fallen. Twisted. Immobile. I can't stand. His voice was strained, not from acting, but from the position, from the heat of the pavement, from the pain radiating through a spine that had never fully healed. My spine is severed. I haven't walked in 5 years. I said get up. I can't. Screams from the parking lot. Bystanders who had stopped to watch, who had raised their phones when they saw an officer confronting a man in a wheelchair. What are you doing? A man's voice. Running footsteps. He's in a wheelchair. What's wrong with you? Another voice. Female. Horrified. Oh my God. Oh my God. Mendez rushed forward. Her body cam captured her movement toward Travers, her hands reaching to support him. Tyler, stop. Look at his legs. He's not faking. She knelt beside Travers. Her camera now pointed at the ground, at his twisted lower body, at legs that showed years of atrophy in every visible line. Sir, don't try to move. I'm calling an ambulance. My back. Travers' voice was tight. The IED damaged. There's hardware in my spine. Don't move. We're getting help. She keyed her radio. Dispatch, this is Officer Mendez. I need EMS at Kroger on Preston Road. We have an injured person in the parking lot. Possible spinal involvement. Send them now. Hendricks stood motionless. The bystander footage, captured from multiple angles by phones throughout the parking lot, showed his face as comprehension finally arrived. The legs weren't moving because they couldn't move. The man wasn't getting up because getting up had never been possible. The wheelchair wasn't stolen. The placard wasn't fake. The Purple Heart wasn't purchased online. Everything Travers had told him was true. An older man pushed through the gathering crowd. White hair. Vietnam veteran cap. He knelt beside Travers and took his hand. I got you, brother. I got you. His voice cracked. You're not alone. We're here. Travers lay on the asphalt, the Texas sun beating down, surrounded by strangers who had seen what an officer had refused to see. My daughter, his voice was barely audible. She has a soccer game. I was supposed to pick her up. Someone will call your family. Just stay still. My wife, she's at a birthday party with my son. We'll find them. Don't worry about anything right now. The Vietnam veteran looked up at Hendricks with an expression that 50 years of memory had earned. What the hell is wrong with you? Hendricks didn't answer. His body cam recorded his silence. The crowd had grown to 30 people by the time the ambulance arrived. Phones remained raised. Voices overlapped. Anger, disbelief, the particular outrage that comes from witnessing cruelty that should have been impossible. Mendez stayed with Travers, her body positioned to shade him from the sun, her voice steady as she monitored his condition. "Sir, can you feel this?" She touched his hand. "Yes." "Can you move your fingers?" He moved them. "Can you feel anything below your waist?" "No. I haven't felt anything below my waist since 2019. "Okay. The paramedics are almost here. Just keep breathing." Hendricks had retreated to a position near his patrol car. His body cam continued recording, capturing the crowd, the phones, the man lying on the asphalt in a gray army hoodie. A woman approached him, mid-30s, scrubs visible beneath a light jacket. She worked at the medical office across the street. "I'm a nurse." "What happened?" "Ma'am, please step back. I can see what happened. You pulled a man out of a wheelchair." "What?" "There was a complaint." "A complaint about what?" "Being disabled in public." "Ma'am, I've worked with paralyzed patients for 8 years. I can see his legs from here. That's not acting. That's atrophy. That's what happens when muscles don't work for years." She walked past him toward Travers. "Sir, I'm a registered nurse. Can I help?" His spine, Mendez began. "I heard. Previous injury. We need to stabilize him before any movement." The ambulance arrived at 2:31 p.m. Paramedics approached with a backboard, their movements practiced and efficient. "Sir, we're going to need to move you very carefully. Can you tell us about your spinal injury?" T10 complete. Hardware at T8 through T12. 14 surgeries at Walter Reed. The paramedic's expression flickered, the recognition of a catastrophic injury described with clinical precision. "We're going to log roll you onto the board. Keep your arms across your chest." They worked as a team. Mendez helping. The nurse from across the street assisting. The Vietnam veteran stepping back, but staying close. Travers was secured to the backboard and lifted onto the stretcher. His wheelchair sat empty beside his van, the grocery bags still scattered, his Purple Heart pin still lying on the asphalt. The Vietnam veteran picked up the pin. He examined it, the same medal he had earned in a different war, a different jungle, a different explosion. He walked to the stretcher and pressed it into Travers' hand. "Don't lose this, brother. You earned it." "Thank you. What's your name?" "Michael. Michael Travers. Sergeant First Class, retired." "I'm Harold. Harold Washington. Sergeant, 1st Infantry Division. 1968. Semper Fi is an army, but brothers are brothers." The paramedics began moving the stretcher toward the ambulance. Mendez walked alongside. "Sir, I'm sorry. I tried to stop him." "I know you did. This shouldn't have happened." "No, it shouldn't have." She looked at Hendricks, still standing near his patrol car, still silent, still being recorded by every phone in the parking lot. "He's going to answer for this. I'll make sure of it." Travers closed his eyes. "My wife. Someone needs to call my wife. I'll handle it." "What's her name?" "Janelle. The number is on my medical alert bracelet." Mendez found the bracelet on his wrist. She copied the number. "I'll call her right now. Tell her I'm okay. Tell her I'm sorry I'm going to miss Maya's soccer game. I'll tell her." The ambulance doors closed. The siren activated, and Michael Travers was transported to the hospital. The second time in his life an explosion had put him on a stretcher. Janelle Travers arrived at 2:47 p.m. Someone from the crowd, she never learned who, had also called the Kroger manager, who had called the number on Travers' pharmacy account. She pulled into the parking lot in her Honda Pilot, Marcus still strapped in his car seat in the back, confused about why they had left the birthday party early. The ambulance was gone. The crowd remained. The police cars remained. The wheelchair remained. Empty, sitting beside the accessible van, a visual accusation. She saw Mendez first, then Hendricks, then the scattered groceries, then the empty chair. "Where's my husband?" She was running before Mendez could respond. "Ma'am, Mrs. Travers. Where is he? What happened?" Mendez intercepted her before she could reach the scene. "He's been transported to Medical City Plano. He's conscious and stable." "Why? What did you do?" Mendez's body cam captured her face. Terror, fury, the particular anguish of someone who had already watched her husband survive one catastrophe and couldn't understand why he was facing another. There was an incident. Officer Hendricks. Janelle saw him, standing near his patrol car. Silent. She moved toward him with a speed that Mendez couldn't intercept. What did you do to him? Ma'am, please calm down. Calm down. You pulled my husband out of his wheelchair? He's paralyzed. He was paralyzed saving another soldier's life. There was a complaint. A complaint? Someone complained about a disabled veteran shopping for groceries. Ma'am, he's a war hero. He has a Purple Heart. He spent 14 months at Walter Reed learning to live in that chair. Harold Washington, the Vietnam veteran who had stayed, stepped forward. Ma'am, I saw everything. Your husband identified himself. He showed his PIN. He offered documentation. The officer refused to listen. He what? He pulled him out of the chair. Your husband hit the ground. His legs. Harold couldn't finish. Janelle turned back to Hendricks. Her voice had dropped from a scream to something quieter. Something worse. My husband shielded a younger soldier with his body when an IED exploded. He absorbed the blast that would have killed them both. 2 of his friends died 10 feet away. And you pulled him out of his wheelchair because someone called 911. Hendricks said nothing. A supervisor's vehicle pulled into the lot. Lieutenant Catherine Ross, 15 years on the force, summoned when the scope of the incident became clear. She assessed the scene in seconds. The empty wheelchair. The scattered groceries. The woman confronting her officer. The crowd with phones still raised. Officer Hendricks. Step away from the civilian. Lieutenant, I was responding to a call. Step away. Now. She approached Janelle with the deference that the situation required. Ma'am, I'm Lieutenant Ross. I'm going to need a full account of what happened here. And I'm going to need to secure all evidence. Evidence of what? Of whatever my officer did. Starting with his body cam. She turned to Hendricks. Your badge and weapon. Now, Lieutenant. That's an order. You're relieved of duty pending investigation. The crowd watched as Hendricks surrendered his badge. His weapon. His authority. Karen Whitmore, the woman who had made the 911 call, was still in the parking lot, standing near her Lexus, watching the aftermath of her 43 seconds of certainty. Ross noticed her. Ma'am, are you the one who called this in? Yes, I thought. Stay where you are. I'll need your statement. Janelle looked at the empty wheelchair. At the Purple Heart pin Harold was still holding. At the groceries scattered across the pavement. I need to get to the hospital. I'll have an officer escort you. And ma'am, Ross's voice softened. I'm sorry. This should never have happened. The Bodycam footage was secured within the hour. Both officers' recordings. Kroger's security cameras. Phone videos from at least 7 bystanders. The investigation that followed would prove what the footage suggested. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. Officer Tyler Hendricks had accumulated 14 complaints in 6 years. Excessive force. Discriminatory conduct. Failure to follow procedure. 12 had been dismissed through departmental review. 2 had resulted in brief suspensions, 3 days each, served without fanfare. 3 of those complaints involved disabled individuals. In 2021, he had accused a man with cerebral palsy of faking his condition during a traffic stop. In 2022, he had demanded a woman with MS get out of her mobility scooter to prove she couldn't walk. In 2023, he had detained a veteran with prosthetic legs, claiming the prosthetics looked suspicious. Each complaint had been dismissed. Insufficient evidence. Officer's account differed. Pattern not recognized. His social media accounts filled in the picture. Posts mocking fake cripples and welfare warriors. Comments on news articles about disability fraud claiming half of them are scammers. Membership in online groups where users shared videos of people caught faking disabilities, most of which showed individuals with invisible conditions being harassed for using accommodations they legitimately needed. Text messages to fellow officers revealed more. Jokes about playing wheelchair inspector. Comments about certain neighborhoods having more fakers than real ones. A message sent 3 days before the Travers incident. Got another one today. These people think they can park anywhere with a stolen placard. The 911 call from Karen Whitmore was examined separately. Dispatch records showed no basis for her report. She had admitted to the operator that she hadn't witnessed any actual crime, just a feeling that the man didn't belong. Her call history revealed a pattern of her own. 6 911 calls in 3 years. A black family suspiciously moving into a house. A Hispanic gardener possibly casing homes. A teenager in a hoodie who didn't look right. None had resulted in any law enforcement action. All had been filed and forgotten. Until now. The FBI Civil Rights Division opened an investigation within 72 hours. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Texas was notified. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Section flagged the case for potential federal charges. The Bodycam footage leaked within a week. 50 million views in the first 3 days. The image of a paralyzed veteran lying on hot asphalt while an officer demanded he quit playing became the defining visual of disability discrimination in law enforcement. Veterans organizations responded with coordinated outrage. The VFW, the American Legion, the Wounded Warrior Project, the organization that had provided Travers' wheelchair, Disabled American Veterans. Each issued statements condemning the incident and demanding accountability. The U.S. Army issued its own statement, confirming Travers' service record and decorations. Sergeant First Class Michael Travers served with distinction for 18 years, including 5 combat deployments. His injuries were sustained in the line of duty while protecting a fellow soldier. The treatment he received in that parking lot was a disgrace to every veteran who has sacrificed for this nation. Travers was released from Medical City Plano after 2 days. Additional scans showed no new damage to his spinal hardware. The fall had been traumatic but not catastrophic. He returned home to find his mailbox overflowing with letters. Fellow veterans, strangers who had seen the video, people who wanted him to know that what happened wasn't right. The federal indictment came 8 weeks later. Civil rights violations, assault on a disabled person, deprivation of rights under color of law. Karen Whitmore was charged separately, filing a false police report. The trial was scheduled for federal court. The federal courtroom in Dallas filled to capacity every day. Veterans in unit caps and service organization jackets. Disability advocates. Journalists covering a case that had become national news. Travers testified in his Army dress uniform. 18 years of service displayed across his chest. Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, Army Commendation Medal, combat patches, the insignia of the 75th Ranger Regiment. On March 14, 2019, I was leading a patrol outside Marja, Afghanistan. I saw an IED pressure plate a fraction of a second before Specialist Rodriguez stepped on it. I threw myself between him and the blast. He paused. Specialist Chun and Private Williams were behind me. They died instantly. My spinal cord was severed. Rodriguez walked away. The prosecutor displayed the Bodycam footage. The jury watched Hendricks demand that Travers stand. They watched him dismiss the Purple Heart as something anyone can buy online. They watched him grab the wheelchair and pull. They watched Travers hit the ground. They watched his legs crumple in positions that proved everything Hendricks had refused to believe. I've been shot at in 3 countries, Travers continued. I've been hit by shrapnel, stabbed during hand-to-hand combat, and watched friends die. Nothing prepared me for lying helpless on that asphalt while a police officer accused me of pretending. The soldiers Travers had saved testified next. Specialist Rodriguez, now a sergeant himself, broke down describing the moment Travers threw himself into the blast. He saved my life. He gave up his legs to save my life. And that officer treated him like a criminal for shopping at Kroger. The doctor from Walter Reed testified about Travers' injuries. The severed spinal cord. The 14 surgeries. The medical impossibility of faking paralysis of that magnitude. Muscle atrophy of the type visible in Mr. Travers' legs takes years to develop. It cannot be simulated. It cannot be faked. Any officer with basic observational training should have recognized it immediately. Hendricks' defense argued procedure. He was responding to a 911 call. He had reason to investigate. He couldn't have known. The prosecutor's rebuttal was surgical. He couldn't have known? Mr. Travers told him. He showed him his legs. He showed him his Purple Heart. He offered his VA card, his military ID, his medical records. Officer Hendricks didn't want to know. He had already decided. The Bodycam footage was played again. The jury watched Hendricks' face as he dismissed each piece of evidence. This looks fake. Anyone can buy those online. I don't care what paperwork you have. Karen Whitmore testified under subpoena. Her 43-second call was played for the jury. People like him do this all the time. What did you mean by people like him? The prosecutor asked. Silence. Mrs. Whitmore, I just meant people who. People who what? She had no answer the jury would accept. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Officer Hendricks. Civil rights violations. assault on a disabled person, deprivation of rights under color of law. Karen Whitmore, in a separate proceeding, was found guilty of filing a false police report. The judge scheduled sentencing for 6 weeks later.
I just walked out of a federal courtroom. What is this about?
We have reason to believe you may be in this country illegally.
I just told you I'm an attorney. Are you dumb?
Save the history lesson. You're being detained until we can verify your status.
You're about to be the next defendant in my civil rights lawsuit. Badge numbers, both of you. Now.
The federal courthouse was 50 feet away. Attorney Malcolm Bridges III had just walked out of a hearing where a judge ruled in his favor on key motions in his class action lawsuit against DHS. 47 families separated at the border, constitutional violations documented, senior immigration officials embarrassed. He was 3 cars from his Mercedes when 2 ICE agents intercepted him and demanded proof of citizenship. His grandfather had marched with Dr. King at Selma. His father had argued before the Supreme Court. His great-great-great-grandfather had fought in the 54th Massachusetts Regiment during the Civil War. 7 generations American. And in a parking lot adjacent to a federal courthouse, he was handcuffed and shoved into an unmarked SUV while his legal files scattered across the asphalt. The parking structure camera captured everything. The anonymous tip that triggered the stop was traced to an IP address inside an IC facility. Text messages revealed the coordination. Time to show this civil rights prince he's not untouchable. $5.2 million. 2 agents sentenced to federal prison. And an attorney who added his own case to the family legacy of civil rights victories. The Sam Nunn Atlanta Federal Center occupied a full city block in downtown Atlanta, home to the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, the kind of building where federal power was exercised, challenged, and occasionally held accountable. Malcolm Bridges III had been inside courtrooms like this for 16 years. Civil rights attorney, founding partner of Bridges and Associates. Immigration rights, civil liberties, police misconduct. The cases others wouldn't take. The clients others wouldn't represent. Yale Law School. Order of the Coif. Former clerk for Justice Sonia Sotomayor. The credentials opened doors. The work kept them open. The family legacy opened more. His grandfather, Reverend Malcolm Bridges Sr., had marched with Dr. King at Selma, founding member of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge fighting for voting rights. His father, Malcolm Bridges Jr., had argued 3 landmark cases before the Supreme Court. 1-2. Changed the law. The Bridges name appeared in constitutional law textbooks. Malcolm III wore his grandfather's civil rights movement pin on his lapel. Small. Vintage. A reminder of where the fight had started and why it continued. Today's hearing had been critical. Ramirez versus Department of Homeland Security. Class action on behalf of 47 families separated at the southern border. Constitutional violations. Due process failures. Children held in facilities without adequate care while parents were deported without hearings. The case had made national headlines. Senior DHS officials named as defendants. Internal documents exposing systematic disregard for legal requirements. Embarrassment that reached the cabinet level. Bridges had received threatening messages. Anonymous. Untraceable. Warnings to drop the case. Implications about what could happen to attorneys who challenged federal power. He hadn't dropped anything. The hearing had gone well. Judge Patricia Morrison ruled in his favor on key discovery motions. DHS would have to produce internal communications. The defendant's legal exposure had increased substantially. He exited the courthouse at 1:12 p.m. Charcoal, gray suit. Burgundy tie. Leather litigation bag over his shoulder. The pin on his lapel catching the October sunlight. The parking structure was adjacent to the federal building. His black Mercedes S-Class waited on the second level. 3 minutes to his car. Then back to the office to prepare for the next phase. He didn't notice the unmarked SUV on the first level. Didn't see the 2 men inside who had been waiting for over 2 hours. The anonymous tip had arrived at the ICE Atlanta field office at 10:47 a.m. It claimed an illegal alien attorney using a fake identity would be leaving the federal courthouse that afternoon. It provided a physical description. It suggested immediate action. Agents Victor Harmon and Dale Sutton had drawn the assignment. 9 years and 6 years with ICE enforcement and removal operations, respectively. They had parked where they could watch the courthouse exit. They saw Bridges emerge. They waited until he was deep in the parking structure. Then they moved. The parking structure security camera captured the encounter from above. mounted on a concrete pillar, wide angle, timestamp visible in the corner, 13 hours, 15 minutes, and 27 seconds. Bridges walked between rows of parked cars, keys in his right hand, litigation bag on his left shoulder. The Mercedes was 3 spaces ahead. 2 men in tactical vests marked HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, emerged from between vehicles and blocked his path. Sir, we're with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We need to verify your citizenship status. Bridges stopped. His expression shifted from confusion to assessment. The camera captured every micro-movement. I'm sorry. I just came from a hearing inside. I'm an attorney. Agent Harmon stood directly in front of him. Sutton flanked from the left. We've received information that someone matching your description is in this country illegally and practicing law under a false identity. Bridges set his litigation bag down slowly. I've been a member of the Georgia Bar for 16 years. I just walked out of a federal courtroom where I'm lead counsel on a civil rights case. Anyone can claim that. We need documentation. Passport, birth certificate, naturalization papers. Bridges' voice remained level. I was born in Atlanta, Grady Memorial Hospital. 1973, my family has been American for 7 generations. We'll need to verify that. My grandfather marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at Selma. My great-great-great-grandfather fought in the 54th Massachusetts Regiment during the Civil War. The Emancipation Proclamation freed my ancestors. How much more American would you like? Harmon's expression didn't change. The camera captured his indifference. Anyone can claim that. We need documentation. A woman 3 cars away had stopped beside her vehicle. Her phone was raised. Recording. Bridges noticed. He adjusted his position slightly, ensuring the parking structure camera had a clear angle. I'm reaching for my wallet. I have identification. He moved slowly, right hand into his jacket pocket, produced his wallet, extracted 3 items. Georgia Bar card, photograph, name, license number, 16 years of good standing, Georgia driver's license, address in Atlanta, birth date confirming he was 51 years old, federal court identification badge, issued by the Northern District of Georgia, photo, name, clearance to enter the building he had just exited. He held all 3 up clearly. Georgia Bar card, driver's license, federal court ID. I was just inside that courthouse 45 minutes ago. Harmon examined the documents, turned them over, held them up to the dim fluorescent light. These could be fraudulent. You'd be amazed how sophisticated fake documents have gotten. Those are authentic federal and state identifications. You can verify them with a single phone call. We'll determine what's authentic. A man walking toward the stairwell had stopped. White, mid-60s, carrying a briefcase. His face showed recognition. Malcolm? What's going on? Bridges turned slightly. The man was Thomas Whitfield, another attorney, 30 years at the federal bar. These agents are detaining me and questioning my citizenship, Tom. Outside the federal courthouse. Call my office. Call the news. Whitfield's phone was already in his hand. Sutton stepped toward him. Sir, this doesn't concern you. It concerns me when federal agents are detaining a colleague in a parking lot. I know who Malcolm Bridges is. His grandfather was a civil rights icon. I don't care who his grandfather was. Bridges spoke directly toward the cameras, the security system, the bystander's phone, Whitfield's raised device. For the record, I am attorney Malcolm Bridges III. I am being detained by ICE agents who are demanding proof of citizenship despite valid identification. I am lead counsel on Ramirez v. DHS, a class action lawsuit against this agency. He looked at Harmon. This is about that case, isn't it? I'm suing your agency, and suddenly my citizenship is in question. Harmon reached for his handcuffs. Turn around. Hands on the vehicle. On what legal basis? I've shown valid identification. I've explained my presence. I've offered verification channels. You have no probable cause for detention. You're being uncooperative. I'm being accurate. Questioning unlawful authority isn't uncooperative. It's constitutional. Sutton moved first. His hand closed around Bridges' arm, aggressive, twisting, spinning him toward the nearest parked car. A gray Honda Civic belonging to someone else. Bridges didn't resist. 16 years of civil rights practice had taught him exactly how these encounters escalated, and how documentation became more valuable than defiance. I am not resisting. I am complying under protest with what I believe to be an unlawful detention. This is being recorded by multiple sources. His litigation bag fell from his shoulder. The clasp opened on impact. Files spilled across the asphalt. Court documents, motions, case notes for Ramirez v. DHS. The papers scattered between parked cars, some sliding under vehicles. The security camera captured the image. A distinguished attorney in a tailored suit, forced against a car, legal files at his feet. The federal courthouse visible through the parking structure's concrete columns. Handcuffs clicked around his wrists. I am a member of the Georgia Bar in good standing. I clerked for Justice Sotomayor at the Supreme Court. I have security clearance with the federal judiciary. None of this is consistent with someone in the country illegally. Save the history lesson. You're being detained until we can verify your status. Then verify it. Call the Georgia Bar. Call the federal court. Call anyone you want. I'll wait. Whitfield had his phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapidly. Yes, Malcolm Bridges. The parking structure. ICE agents. They're handcuffing him right now. Get someone down here. The bystander, a woman in her 30s, later identified as Carla Vinson, a paralegal at a downtown firm, continued recording. Her phone captured the closer angle that the security camera missed. Bridges' face, his composure, the pin on his lapel. An older white attorney approached from the stairwell entrance. Gerald Morrison, 68, semi-retired, returning from a probate matter. Do you know who that is? His voice carried across the structure. His grandfather marched at Selma. His father argued before the Supreme Court. Harmon turned. I don't care if his grandfather was George Washington. He's coming with us. On what charge? Immigration violation pending verification. He's a citizen. His family has been in this country longer than yours. Sir, step back or you'll be detained for obstruction. Morrison stepped back, but his phone was raised now. A third recording source. Bridges was guided toward the unmarked SUV on the first level. His gait was steady. His posture remained upright. The composure that had carried him through hostile depositions and contentious hearings held firm. The parking structure camera captured the final image before he entered the vehicle. His face through the rear window, calm, dignified, resolute. The federal courthouse visible in the background. The scattered legal files still on the asphalt where they had fallen. Sutton collected the documents and threw them into the SUV's cargo area. No organization. No care. Case files for 47 separated families, treated as debris. The vehicle pulled out of the parking structure at 1:23 p.m. Within 30 minutes, the footage from Carla Vinson's phone was uploaded to social media. Within 60 minutes, news crews were stationed outside the ICE Atlanta field office. Within 90 minutes, the first calls arrived from United States senators demanding to know why a civil rights attorney had been arrested in a federal courthouse parking lot. The story was already national news before Bridges' citizenship verification was complete. But the verification wouldn't take long. Malcolm Bridges III had never been anything other than American. The ICE Atlanta field office received its first congressional inquiry at 2:47 p.m. Senator Raphael Warnock's office. Then Senator John Ossoff. Then the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. The verification process that should have preceded any detention was now occurring under extraordinary pressure. Birth certificate on file with Georgia Department of Public Health since 1973. Grady Memorial Hospital. Malcolm Bridges III. Parents: Malcolm Bridges Jr. and Evelyn Bridges, née Thompson. Both U.S. citizens. Social Security records continuous since 1973. Employment history documented. Tax returns filed for 49 consecutive years. U.S. passport issued in 1995. Renewed 4 times. Current passport valid through 2029. Travel history showing no immigration concerns. Supreme Court security clearance from 2002 to 2003. Background investigation conducted by the U.S. Marshals Service. Full access to chambers and secure areas during his clerkship with Justice Sotomayor. Federal court credentials issued by the Northern District of Georgia. Active since 2008. No disciplinary issues. Georgia Bar records confirming admission in 2008. 16 years of good standing. No complaints. No suspensions. The verification took 11 minutes. ICE Field Office Director Patricia Okafor reviewed the results personally. She had received calls from 3 federal judges, 2 senators, and the DOJ Inspector General's office. all within the same hour. Release him. Immediately. No processing. No documentation of detention. And someone explained to me how this happened. Bridges was uncuffed at 3:18 p.m., 2 hours and 3 minutes after his arrest. He was offered his litigation bag, files now in disarray, some pages bent or soiled from the parking structure floor. I'll need a receipt documenting everything that was in this bag when I was detained, and its current condition. Sir, we're releasing you. I understand. I'll also need the names and badge numbers of the arresting agents, the authorization for my detention, and any documentation of the tip that allegedly justified this encounter. Director Okafor appeared in the doorway. Mr. Bridges, I apologize for what happened today. This was a misunderstanding. This was not a misunderstanding. This was retaliation. I'm lead counsel on a lawsuit against your agency. An anonymous tip suddenly appears questioning my citizenship. That's not coincidence. That's coordination. We'll investigate. Yes, you will. So will the FBI. So will the Inspector General. So will my firm, which specializes in exactly this kind of civil rights violation. He adjusted his grandfather's pin on his lapel, knocked slightly askew during the arrest. Now, if you'll escort me to the exit, I believe there are some cameras waiting. The media presence outside the ICE facility had grown to over 50 cameras and reporters. National outlets, local news, international press covering the story as it spread. Bridges stepped out into the October afternoon. He didn't rush to the microphones. He walked with the measured pace of someone who understood that every step was now part of the historical record. He stopped at the cluster of microphones. He waited for the noise to settle. My grandfather, Reverend Malcolm Bridges Sr., was beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in 1965. He was fighting for the right of Black Americans to be recognized as full citizens of this country. His voice was steady. The cameras captured every word. Today, 60 years later, his grandson was handcuffed in a parking lot and asked to prove he was American, in the shadow of a federal courthouse. While legal files for separated families scattered on the ground, he touched the pin on his lapel. How far have we really come? The questions erupted. He raised his hand. I won't be taking questions today, but I will be filing a federal civil rights lawsuit. And I will be completing the case I was working on when I was arrested, representing 47 families who were separated by the very agency that just detained me. He walked toward the car that had been brought by his firm. My family has been fighting this fight for 4 generations. Today proved why we can't stop. The FBI Civil Rights Division opened its investigation within 24 hours. The DHS Inspector General launched a parallel internal probe. The evidence streams converged rapidly. The parking structure security footage was secured first. Continuous recording from 1312 to 1326. Every moment documented. The interception, the demand, the handcuffs, the scattered files, the SUV pulling away. Carla Vinson's phone video provided the closer angle. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. Bridges' face clearly visible. The agent's tactical vests marked HSI. The audio capturing, I don't care if his grandfather was George Washington. Gerald Morrison's phone captured 31 additional seconds from a different position. Thomas Whitfield's brief recording added context about Bridges' attempts to identify himself. For independent recordings, no gaps in documentation. The anonymous tip became the critical evidence. ICE internal systems logged all incoming communications. The tip had arrived at 10:47 a.m. via the agency's online reporting portal. Text entry. No callback number. The content. Illegal alien attorney using fake identity. Will be leaving Sam Nunn Federal Center approximately 1 p.m. Wednesday. Black male, 50s, gray suit. IP address logging was automatic. The address traced to a terminal inside the ICE Atlanta field office. Someone within the agency had submitted the tip that triggered the detention of an attorney suing that same agency. Subpoenas followed. Email accounts, text messages, phone records. The digital forensics mapped the coordination. Agent Harmon's text messages were the most damaging. To Agent Sutton, 9:23 a.m. the morning of the arrest. Got something for today? Civil rights lawyer causing problems for the brass. Anonymous tip coming in. We're on it. Sutton's reply, the Ramirez guy? Harmon, time to show this civil rights prince he's not untouchable. Sutton, let's see him march his way out of this one. The reference to marching. The family connection. They knew exactly who Malcolm Bridges was. The verification of citizenship was never the purpose. The purpose was intimidation, retaliation, humiliation. Both agents had prior complaints in their personnel files. Harmon, 2 allegations of racial profiling during enforcement operations, both closed without discipline. Sutton, 1 complaint of retaliatory conduct against a witness in an immigration case, dismissed after the witness declined to pursue it. The pattern was documented but never addressed. The investigation expanded beyond the agents. Who had known about the tip before it was submitted? Who had assigned Harmon and Sutton to respond? Internal communications revealed coordination reaching 4 levels above the agents. Senior officials in the Atlanta field office had discussed the Bridges problem in emails. One message, sent 3 days before the arrest: someone needs to remind these lawyers who they're dealing with. The sender was Deputy Field Office Director Raymond Calvert, named as a defendant in Bridges' class action lawsuit. Judge Morrison, presiding over Ramirez v. DHS, issued an emergency order demanding DHS explain the arrest of lead counsel. She threatened sanctions and potential dismissal of the government's defenses if retaliation was proven. The government's legal position collapsed within weeks. Federal prosecutors from the Public Integrity Section presented the evidence to a grand jury. The indictments followed the evidence chain. Agents Harmon and Sutton for civil rights violations, false arrest, and conspiracy. Deputy Director Calvert and 3 other officials for conspiracy and obstruction. The parking structure footage was played for the grand jury. The text messages were read aloud. The IP trace was explained. The indictments were returned unanimously. Bridges filed his civil lawsuit the same week. Bridges versus Harmon, Sutton, Calvert, et al., and the United States of America. Northern District of Georgia. The complaint was 73 pages long. The criminal trial proceeded first. United States versus Harmon and Sutton. The senior officials negotiated separate dispositions to avoid trial, plea agreements that included cooperation and testimony. The evidence presentation took 3 days. The parking structure footage was played in its entirety. The jury watched Bridges walk toward his car, watched the agents intercept him, watched the handcuffs applied, watched the legal files scatter. The text messages were displayed on screens. Time to show this civil rights prince he's not untouchable. Let's see him march his way out of this one. The IP trace documentation showed the anonymous tip originated inside ICE. The coordination was not alleged. It was proven. Carla Vincent testified about what she witnessed. I was walking to my car. I saw 2 men in tactical vests approaching a man in a suit. Something felt wrong. I started recording. What did you observe? They demanded his citizenship papers. He showed them his ID, his bar card. They said it could be fake. They handcuffed him. His papers fell everywhere. Thomas Whitfield testified about recognizing Bridges. I've known Malcolm for 20 years. His grandfather was Reverend Malcolm Bridges, a civil rights icon. His father argued before the Supreme Court. The idea that he was somehow illegal or using a fake identity was absurd. Gerald Morrison described shouting at the agents. I told them who he was. They said they didn't care if his grandfather was George Washington. Those were the exact words. Bridges testified on the 4th day. He wore his grandfather's pin. I've spent 16 years representing people whose rights were violated by the government. I never expected to become one of my own clients. Can you describe what you experienced? I was walking to my car after winning a hearing in my lawsuit against DHS. I was stopped by agents who demanded I prove my citizenship. I showed them valid identification. They called it fake. They handcuffed me. My case files, documents for 47 families who were separated from their children, were thrown on the ground. How did you feel? I felt what my grandfather must have felt on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I felt what my ancestors felt when they were told they weren't fully American. In 2025, in a federal courthouse parking lot, the defense attempted to argue good faith. Anonymous tip. Standard procedure. No way to know the tip was fabricated. The prosecution's rebuttal was the text messages. They knew exactly who Malcolm Bridges was. They referenced his family. They planned to show him he's not untouchable. This wasn't a good faith response to a tip. This was targeted retaliation against an attorney suing their agency. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing followed 8 weeks later. The judge reviewed the pre-sentencing reports, the prior complaints, the pattern of conduct, the deliberate targeting of a civil rights attorney. You didn't just violate Mr. Bridges' rights. You attacked the legal system itself. You attempted to intimidate an attorney for representing clients against your agency. That strikes at the foundation of justice. Harmon, 2 years federal prison. Sutton, 2 years federal prison. The senior officials who had facilitated the conspiracy faced their own consequences. Deputy Director Calvert and 3 others resigned rather than face termination. Their pension calculations were adjusted to reflect the circumstances of their departure. For careers destroyed. The civil lawsuit settled before trial. The settlement negotiations lasted 6 weeks. The government calculated its exposure, the footage, the text messages, the IP trace, the pattern evidence. Trial would have meant more discovery, more internal communications exposed, more embarrassment. They settled for $5.2 million. Bridges accepted the terms. The money was not the point. The accountability was. His original lawsuit, Ramirez v. DHS, proceeded without further interference. Judge Morrison issued sanctions against the government for the attempted intimidation of counsel. The sanctions included adverse inferences on key factual disputes. The case settled 8 months after Bridges' arrest. $67 million for 47 families. Policy changes requiring documentation of family separation decisions. Enhanced oversight of detention facilities. New procedures for parental notification before removal. The families he had been fighting for when he was handcuffed received the justice the system had denied them. Bridges distributed his personal settlement with deliberate purpose. $3 million established the Reverend Malcolm Bridges Senior Freedom Fund, providing citizenship assistance, naturalization support, and legal defense for immigrants facing deportation. Named for his grandfather. Continuing his grandfather's work. $1 million funded scholarships for first-generation law students pursuing civil rights careers. The remaining funds secured his family's future and supported the firm's continued pro bono work. The parking structure footage was donated to the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. It joined the permanent collection alongside photographs from Selma, artifacts from the civil rights movement, and documentation of the ongoing struggle for equality. A placard beside the display reads, Malcolm Bridges III, detained in a federal courthouse parking lot and asked to prove his citizenship. His family has been American for 7 generations. Bridges testified before Congress 6 months after the criminal convictions. The House Judiciary Committee. Hearing on civil rights enforcement and federal accountability. He wore his grandfather's pin. My great-great-great-grandfather fought in the 54th Massachusetts Regiment to preserve this union. My grandfather was beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge to secure voting rights. My father argued before the Supreme Court to expand civil liberties. And I was handcuffed in a parking lot and asked to prove I was American. He paused. The question isn't whether we've made progress. We have. The question is whether that progress protects everyone equally. It doesn't. Not yet. Agents Harmon and Sutton are currently serving their sentences at a federal prison camp in Alabama. They will be released in 18 months. Deputy Director Calvert works as a consultant for a private security firm. His federal pension was reduced by 40%. Attorney Malcolm Bridges III continues to practice civil rights law in Atlanta. Bridges and Associates has expanded to 12 attorneys. Their caseload includes immigration rights, police misconduct, and federal accountability matters. The firm's lobby displays 3 photographs. Reverend Malcolm Bridges Sr. at the March on Washington. Malcolm Bridges Jr. on the steps of the Supreme Court. Malcolm Bridges III walking out of the ICE facility. Grandfather
registration, and I'm going to need you to tell me why you're carrying a firearm.
I'm a federal agent, ATF. My badge and credentials are in my jacket pocket.
ATF? Yeah, right.
Here. Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson.
This looks fake. Where'd you buy this? I'm calling this in. You aren't free to go.
650 words. 14 years with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Over 150 federal firearms, trafficking investigations. 12 major illegal weapons operations dismantled across the Southeast. Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson had spent his career getting guns off the streets. 2 hours earlier, he had completed an undercover by that would lead to 23 federal indictments. He was driving home to see his daughter's school play when Officer Travis Dunlap pulled him over and called his ATF credentials fake. Where'd you buy this? Amazon. Dunlap laughed while Jefferson lay face down on the asphalt, a 14-year federal agent treated like a suspect because a 2-year officer couldn't imagine a black man with a real badge. The Bodycam captured everything. The backup sergeant who actually called ATF Atlanta captured the moment Dunlap's career ended. $1.6 million. Terminated. Barred from law enforcement in Georgia. And an agent who returned to duty and finished the case that put 23 traffickers in federal prison. The warehouse operation had gone flawlessly. 3 months of surveillance. 6 weeks of building cover identity. 4 controlled purchases documented on concealed recording equipment. The final buy, 14 illegal firearms, including 2 converted automatics. Completed at 4:47 p.m. in an industrial district south of Atlanta. Jefferson had played his role to perfection. The nervous buyer. The guy who knew a guy. The middleman moving product for clients he never named. The traffickers trusted him enough to bring the heavy merchandise. They wouldn't trust anyone again. Not after the indictments came down. Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Webb met him at the extraction point. Clean work, DJ. 23 defendants once we roll up the network. The U.S. attorney is already drafting. Glad it's done. Get out of here. Your daughter's play is tonight, right? 7 o'clock. Might actually make it. Jefferson changed in the back of the surveillance van, shedding the undercover attire for his own clothes. Dark jeans, black polo shirt, brown leather jacket. His service weapon, ATF-issued Glock 19, transferred to his holster. His credentials went into his jacket pocket. Federal agents carry credentials at all times. Policy. Requirement. The badge that identified him as Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson, GS 13, Atlanta Field Division. He had carried that badge for 14 years. Former Army military police with 6 years of service, including deployment to Iraq. Florida A&M for his bachelor's. University of Central Florida for his master's in forensic science. The Distinguished Service Medal for an undercover operation that prevented an arms shipment to a domestic terror cell. The career he had built from nothing. Raised in Liberty City, Miami by his grandmother after losing both parents to gun violence at age 7. That loss had driven everything. The enlistment, the education, the 14 years of taking illegal weapons off streets before they could take more parents from more children. His black Dodge Charger sat in the secure lot. Personal vehicle. Nothing about it suggested federal agent, which was the point during undercover operations. He pulled onto I-75 North at 5:23 p.m. Rush hour traffic. The drive to Marietta would take 40 minutes on a good day, longer with congestion. Highway 41 offered a shortcut through Cobb County. Less traffic. Familiar route. He exited onto the suburban stretch at 6:44 p.m. Strip malls and gas stations. Light traffic passing in both directions. 8 minutes from home. Plenty of time for the play. The patrol car appeared in his rearview mirror at 6:48 p.m. Officer Travis Dunlap had been running stationary radar near the Roswell Road intersection. He watched the black Charger pass, 3 miles under the speed limit, signals properly used, nothing indicating any traffic violation. He pulled out and followed anyway. 4 minutes later, his lights activated. Jefferson checked his speed, checked his mirrors, checked his turn signals. Nothing wrong. Nothing violated. No reason for the stop. He pulled to the shoulder with the discipline of someone who understood exactly what was happening. His hands went to the steering wheel. 10 and 2. Visible. The body cam on Dunlap's chest activated as he stepped out of his cruiser. Timestamp. 18 hours, 52 minutes, and 37 seconds. The Axon Body 2 captured everything from chest height. Jefferson visible through the driver's window, hands positioned on the steering wheel, posture calm. The Charger's interior unremarkable, no contraband visible, no weapons displayed, nothing to justify the approach that followed. Dunlap's flashlight activated despite adequate daylight. The beam swept across Jefferson's face, into the back seat, across the passenger side. License and registration. Jefferson didn't move his hands. Officer, before I reach for anything, I want to inform you that I'm a federal agent. I'm armed and carrying my credentials. How would you like me to proceed? Standard protocol. Every federal agent learned it. Announce status. Announce armed condition. Request instruction. Prevent misunderstanding. Dunlap's posture shifted. The body cam captured the change, shoulders tensing, hand moving toward his holster. Federal agent? What agency? ATF. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. My badge and ID are in my jacket pocket. ATF. The word carried skepticism. The audio recorded clearly. Yeah, right. Let me see this so-called badge. I'm going to reach slowly into my left jacket pocket. That's where my credentials are. Jefferson moved with deliberate precision. Right hand remained on the steering wheel. Left hand crossed his body, entered the jacket pocket, emerged holding the leather credential case. He opened it. The gold ATF badge gleamed in the evening light. The photo identification showed his face. The signature of the ATF director appeared at the bottom. Here, Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson, Atlanta Field Division. Dunlap took the credentials. The Bodycam captured his examination, turning the badge, tilting it toward the flashlight, scrutinizing details that had passed verification hundreds of times. This looks fake. It's not. I've seen real federal badges. This doesn't look right. Officer, that is an authentic ATF credential issued to me 14 years ago. You can verify it by calling the Atlanta Field Division. I can give you the number. Anyone can buy one of these online. Not one with my photograph, my badge number, and the director's signature. You know how many people try to flash fake badges? I'm not flashing anything. I identified myself as a federal law enforcement officer following standard protocol. I'm providing you with authentic credentials. You're welcome to verify them through any channel you choose. Dunlap held the badge at arm's length, as if distance might reveal a flaw closer examination had missed. Where'd you buy this? I didn't buy it. I earned it. 14 years with ATF. GS, 13 Special Agent. Currently assigned to the Violent Crime Task Force. Call my supervisor, Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Webb. Call the FBI. Call the Department of Justice. Call anyone you want. Step out of the vehicle. On what grounds? I'm detaining you for impersonating a federal officer. Jefferson's hands remained visible. His voice remained level. The composure that had carried him through undercover operations against armed traffickers held steady against a 2-year officer who had decided what he was looking at. I am not impersonating anyone. I am a federal agent. I've provided my credentials. I've offered verification. You have no legal basis for detention. You're refusing a lawful order. I'm declining to participate in an unlawful detention. There's a difference. Dunlap keyed his radio. The Bodycam captured the transmission. Dispatch, Unit 47. I've got a traffic stop on Highway 41, near Roswell Road. Suspect is armed and refusing to comply. Claims to be federal, but badge appears counterfeit. Requesting backup. Jefferson heard every word. Armed. Refusing. Counterfeit. None of it accurate. All of it now on the dispatch recording. For the record, Jefferson said, projecting toward the Bodycam, I am Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson, ATF. My badge number is 4782. I have identified myself and offered verification, which has been refused. Blue lights appeared in the distance. Backup was coming. 2 patrol cars arrived within 4 minutes. 4 officers now on scene. Jefferson remained in the Charger, hands visible, credentials still in Dunlap's possession. Sergeant Yvonne Palmer stepped out of the lead backup vehicle. 15 years on the force. The ranking officer present. What do we have? Subject claims to be ATF, but the badge doesn't look right. Dunlap held up the credentials. I think it's counterfeit. He's armed and refusing to exit. Palmer examined the badge briefly. Her expression was neutral. The Bodycam captured neither confirmation nor doubt. Have you verified with ATF? I don't need to verify. I know what real federal badges look like. Sir. Palmer addressed Jefferson through the window. Can you confirm your identity? Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson. ATF Atlanta Field Division. Badge number 4782. My supervisor is Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Webb. You can reach the duty desk at 404-417-2600. Thank you. She turned to Dunlap. Call it in. Sarge, I'm telling you. Call it in, or I will. Dunlap's jaw tightened. The Bodycam captured the resistance, an officer unwilling to verify because verification might prove him wrong. Fine. But when this comes back fake, I want the arrest. He walked toward his cruiser. He did not make the call. Palmer remained at the window. Sir, we're going to verify your credentials. It shouldn't take long. I understand. I'd appreciate it if someone actually made the call. We will. But before Palmer could follow through, Dunlap returned. His posture had hardened. Dispatch confirmed there's no agent by that name at ATF. Jefferson's eyes narrowed. That's incorrect. That's what I got. Step out of the vehicle. Now. Dispatch confirmed no such thing. You either didn't call, or you're lying. Are you calling me a liar? I'm stating that I've been with ATF for 14 years. My credentials are authentic. Whatever you claim dispatch told you is not accurate. Dunlap's hand moved to his weapon. Out of the vehicle. Now. The other backup officer, a younger patrolman named Reeves, had drawn as well. 2 weapons pointed at a federal agent through an open car window. Hands where I can see them. Exit slowly. Jefferson recognized the geometry. 2 drawn weapons. No cover. Compliance or escalation. An escalation against drawn weapons was suicide regardless of credentials. I'm exiting. My hands will remain visible. I am unarmed except for my service weapon, which is holstered. He opened the door with his left hand. Stepped out with movements slow enough to track. Kept both hands at shoulder height. Turn around. Hands on the vehicle. He complied. I am a federal agent. I've identified myself. I've provided credentials. This detention is unlawful. Dunlap's hands patted down his torso, his legs, his waist. They found the Glock 19 in the hip holster. Well, look what we have here. That is my service weapon. Issued by ATF. Serial number is registered to the agency. The weapon was removed. The holster was unclipped. Both were placed on the hood of the patrol car next to his credentials. Hands behind your back. I am not resisting. But I am stating clearly, for the body cam, that this detention is without legal basis. Handcuffs clicked around his wrists. On your knees. I will not kneel. I've complied with every physical demand. I will not kneel. Dunlap's hand pressed against his shoulder. The force drove him downward. His knees hit the asphalt, then his chest, then his face. A 14-year federal agent. Distinguished Service Medal. 150 investigations. Face pressed into the pavement of Highway 41. Dunlap laughed. Nice try with the fake badge. Where'd you get it? Amazon. The body cam captured the angle from above. Jefferson prone on the asphalt, hands cuffed behind his back. Dunlap standing over him with the posture of someone enjoying the moment. You know how many idiots try to flash fake badges? Had a guy last month with FBI credentials he printed at home. Another one with some Secret Service bullshit. Those weren't real. Mine is. Sure it is. Palmer had been watching from near her vehicle. Something in the scene had triggered the instinct that 15 years developed. The recognition that confidence didn't equal accuracy. That laughter during detention rarely accompanied legitimate arrests. She walked to Dunlap's cruiser. She picked up his radio. Dispatch, this is Sergeant Palmer. I need ATF Atlanta Field Division. Do we have that contact in the system? A pause. Then, affirm. 404-417-2600. Patch me through. Dunlap noticed. He left Jefferson on the ground and approached. Sarge, I already called. I'm verifying myself. The line connected. A voice answered. Duty agent, night desk. ATF Atlanta, Special Agent Morrison. This is Sergeant Yvonne Palmer, Cobb County Police. I have an individual on a traffic stop claiming to be one of your agents. Can you verify? Name and badge number? Jefferson. Dwayne Jefferson. Badge number 4782. Silence on the line. The kind that indicated database access. Then, that's Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson. He's one of our lead agents with the Violent Crime Task Force. He just finished an undercover operation about 2 hours ago. Where is he? Is he okay? Palmer's face went pale. The body cam on her chest captured the color draining. He's on scene. He's being detained. Detained for what? There was a question about his credentials. His credentials are authentic. He's been with the agency for 14 years. I need to speak with your supervisor immediately. And I need you to release Agent Jefferson right now. Palmer walked back to where Jefferson lay. Dunlap was still standing over him. Uncuff him. What? Uncuff him. Now. But the badge is real. ATF just confirmed. Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson. 14 years. Let agent. Uncuff him now. Dunlap's face shifted. The body cam captured the transformation, certainty collapsing into something approaching fear. The badge didn't look. Uncuff him now. The handcuffs came off. Jefferson stood slowly, brushed the gravel from his shirt, examined the abrasions on his palms from the asphalt. He retrieved his credentials from the hood of the patrol car, verified the badge, checked his photo ID. He retrieved his service weapon, confirmed it was unloaded. Dunlap had cleared it during the search, reloaded from his magazine. holstered. Then he looked at Dunlap. I've spent 14 years getting illegal guns off the streets. I've been shot at, stabbed, threatened by actual criminals, people who traffic weapons that kill children. His voice carried no rage, something colder. And this is the most disrespected I've ever felt. Blue lights appeared on the highway. Unmarked vehicle. Federal plates. ATF supervisors. They had mobilized the moment the verification call came through. Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Webb stepped out. His expression carried something between fury and disbelief. DJ, you all right? Physically. What happened? Pulled over for driving while black. Badge called fake. Forced to the ground. Laughed at. Webb turned to Palmer. Who's responsible? She pointed to Dunlap, who stood frozen near his cruiser. Webb walked toward him with the deliberate pace of someone who understood exactly what was about to unfold. Officer, I'm going to need your badge number, your supervisor's contact, and every piece of footage from this stop. Dunlap didn't respond. This is now a federal matter. Whatever you thought was happening here, it's something else entirely. The evidence preservation began immediately. Palmer secured Dunlap's Bodycam before the footage could be altered. Webb requested the dash camera recording from both patrol vehicles. The dispatch logs, every transmission, every response, were flagged for retention. Jefferson provided his statement to ATF Internal Affairs that night. Factual, chronological, the composure that had carried him through the encounter still intact. I identified myself as a federal agent. I announced I was armed. I offered my credentials. I provided multiple verification options. All were refused or ignored. The officer claimed your badge was fake. He said it didn't look right. He asked if I bought it on Amazon. Did he ever attempt verification before the detention? No. He claimed dispatch confirmed no agent by my name existed. That was false. Sergeant Palmer verified my credentials with a single phone call. The dispatch recording would prove it. Dunlap had never called ATF. His claim of dispatch confirmation was fabricated. The FBI Civil Rights Division opened a parallel investigation within 72 hours. The evidence streams converged. The Bodycam showed everything. The stop, the dismissal, the refusal to verify, the drawn weapons, the forced compliance, the laughter. The dash camera captured a wider angle. Jefferson standing with hands raised, officers approaching with weapons drawn, the prone position on the asphalt. The dispatch recording documented what Dunlap claimed and what actually occurred. No verification call. No stolen vehicle report justifying the original stop. That absence became critical. Dunlap's stated reason for initiating the stop was that the Charger matched a stolen vehicle description. Investigators pulled every stolen vehicle report from the prior 72 hours. None matched Jefferson's Charger. No black Dodge Chargers reported stolen in Cobb County, Fulton County, or any adjacent jurisdiction. The stop was pretextual. The justification was fabricated. His personnel file revealed more. 3 prior complaints of racial profiling, all dismissed after internal review. A pattern of traffic stops that his colleagues had noticed, but supervisors had overlooked. Digital forensics completed the picture. Social media posts mocking fake cops and wannabe feds. Comments suggesting certain people don't deserve to be in law enforcement. Private text messages to fellow officers joking about thugs with badges and how easy it is to spot them. One text, sent 4 months before the Jefferson stop. Black guy in a Charger equals probable cause LOL. His stop records were analyzed. 2 years of traffic enforcement data. The pattern was numerical, not emotional. 73% of Dunlap's stops involved black or Hispanic drivers, despite the demographic composition of Highway 41 traffic being approximately 31% minority. He was stopping minorities at more than twice the expected rate, and his outcomes were revealing. Black drivers stopped, 47. Citations issued to black drivers, 3. Arrests of black drivers, 0. White drivers stopped, 16. Citations issued, 11. Arrests, 2. He wasn't stopping black drivers because they committed violations. He was stopping them and then finding no violations because the stops were never about violations. Cobb County PD initially defended Dunlap. A department spokesperson claimed the officer was following protocol and the incident was under review. The Bodycam footage leaked 3 days later. Public reaction was immediate. The image of a federal agent, face down on pavement, hands cuffed behind his back, an officer laughing above him, became national news. ATF director released a statement supporting Jefferson, condemning the treatment, demanding accountability. The department's position became untenable. Jefferson filed the federal civil rights lawsuit 8 weeks after the incident. Jefferson versus Dunlap and Cobb County, Northern District of Georgia. Deprivation of rights under color of law. False arrest. Unlawful detention. Fabrication of evidence. The complaint was 37 pages long. Discovery exposed what the department had chosen not to see. The traffic stop database became the prosecution's most damaging exhibit. Not just Dunlap's record, the department's. Highway 41 through Cobb County. Black drivers stopped at 4 times the rate of white drivers. Hispanic drivers at 2.8 times. The disparity held across day and night shifts, weekday and weekend patrols. The pattern wasn't one officer. It was systemic. Dunlap's 3 prior complaints had been dismissed through a process that never examined the underlying data. Each complainant was interviewed. Each denied the claims. Each file was closed. What the investigations never included: comparative stop analysis, outcome tracking, or any attempt to identify whether the individual complaints reflected a broader pattern. They did. Dunlap's defense rested on qualified immunity, the doctrine that protects officers from personal liability when acting within the scope of their duties. His attorneys argued good faith, reasonable suspicion, ambiguous circumstances. The Bodycam footage destroyed each argument. The badge was authentic. Dunlap examined it. He chose to call it fake without verification. The credentials were valid. Jefferson offered multiple channels for confirmation. Dunlap refused them all. The stolen vehicle report didn't exist. Dunlap fabricated it. The dispatch recordings proved he never made the verification call he claimed to have made. Qualified immunity requires good faith. Fabrication isn't good faith. Refusal to verify isn't good faith. Laughter while a federal agent lies face down on asphalt isn't good faith. The court denied immunity. The case proceeded to trial. The proceedings lasted 4 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Jefferson testified in a charcoal suit. Not his uniform, not his tactical gear, just the clothes of a man who had spent 14 years serving a system that had failed to protect him from one of its own. I followed every protocol. I identified myself. I announced I was armed. I offered verification. I was calm, respectful, compliant. It didn't matter. Why do you think it didn't matter? Because Officer Dunlap had already decided what he was looking at. He saw a black man in a nice car. Everything after that was justification. Sergeant Palmer testified as a reluctant witness. She described the scene. The refusal to verify. The moment she made the call that Dunlap should have made. It took 30 seconds. 30 seconds to confirm he was exactly who he said he was. Why didn't Officer Dunlap make that call? I don't know. I've asked myself that question. I don't have an answer that makes sense. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. Liable on all counts. The damages phase followed. Jefferson's attorneys presented evidence of emotional distress, professional humiliation, and the lasting impact on his ability to conduct undercover operations. Criminals had seen his face in news coverage. The jury awarded $1.6 million in compensatory and punitive damages. Cobb County's insurance carrier advised settlement rather than appeal. The county accepted. The settlement terms were finalized within 60 days of the verdict. $1.6 million. A portion between the county's liability insurance and discretionary funds. Officer Travis Dunlap was terminated the week after the verdict. His law enforcement certification was permanently revoked by the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, barred from serving as a police officer anywhere in the state. The criminal referral to the FBI Civil Rights Division resulted in no federal charges. Prosecutorial discretion determined that the civil verdict adequately addressed accountability. Dunlap faced no prison time. His career destruction was deemed sufficient consequence. The department entered a consent decree with the Department of Justice. The terms required: mandatory bias training for all officers, recurring annually independent monitoring of traffic stop data, with quarterly reporting revision of use of force policies for encounters with individuals claiming law enforcement status, external review of all prior complaints dismissed without pattern analysis, federal oversight for a minimum of 3 years. The data analysis that had exposed the disparity became the foundation for policy reform. Highway 41 stops were now subject to automated demographic tracking. Any officer showing statistical deviation from expected patterns would trigger supervisory review. Jefferson accepted the settlement. He allocated the funds deliberately. $400,000 established the Gateway Scholarship Fund, providing financial support for minority students pursuing federal law enforcement careers. Named for Liberty City, the Miami neighborhood where he had grown up after losing his parents to the gun violence he had spent 14 years fighting. The remaining funds went to his family. College savings for his daughter and son. Security for his wife. The stability that service should have always provided. He returned to ATF duty 6 weeks after the verdict. The undercover operation he had completed the day of the stop, the firearms trafficking case, resulted in 23 federal indictments. 18 defendants pleaded guilty. 5 went to trial and were convicted. The weapons that operation removed from circulation included 14 firearms traced to prior violent crimes. 3 had been used in homicides. Jefferson was promoted to Group Supervisor 8 months after returning. He now oversees the Violent Crime Task Force he once served on, managing the agents and operations that take illegal weapons off streets before they can take more parents from more children. He testified before Congress 14 months after the incident. A subcommittee hearing on racial profiling and its impact on minority law enforcement officers. His testimony was entered into the congressional record. I have dedicated my career to protecting communities from illegal weapons. I have put myself in danger countless times. I have earned every credential I carry. And none of that protected me from an officer who couldn't imagine a black man with a real badge. Travis Dunlap moved to Alabama after his termination. He works as a car salesman at a dealership in Birmingham. His applications to law enforcement agencies in Alabama have been automatically rejected. Georgia's revocation follows him across state lines. The Cobb County consent decree remains in effect. The third-year review showed measurable improvement in traffic stop demographics. The 4x disparity reduced to 1.7x. Progress, not parity. The Gateway Scholarship Fund has supported 17 recipients in its first 2 years. 3 have completed academy training. 1 is now a probationary agent with the FBI. Special Agent Dwayne Jefferson still drives a black Dodge Charger. He still carries his ATF credentials in his jacket pocket. He still follows protocol when stopped. Hands visible, verbal announcement, offer of verification. The difference is that he now trains other agents on what to do when protocol isn't enough. When verification is refused. When badges are called fake. When 14 years of service means nothing to someone who has already decided what they're looking for.
Uncovering the truth is more important now than ever. Our goal is to hold power to account by letting the evidence speak for itself. The records don't lie. Thanks for watching and being part of this journey.